Hello, this is Sahar. I hope you enjoy listening to this podcast. Tania is a writer, an artist, a speaker, and a workshop leader on various subjects including dream, shamanism, and pagan topics. In this podcast, I asked Tania, what is it like to be the editor of the first Body, Mind, Spirit magazine? And what is it like to grow up in a family where everyone is psychic? I hope you'll enjoy the conversation. Hello, Tania, and thank you for talking to us at psychicpodcasts.com.
Hello.
Now, you've started in journalism, and you have now been the editor of Prediction magazine, which is the first Body, Mind, Spirit magazine in the United Kingdom for some time. What is it like to be in that role?
It's pretty amazing, actually. Prediction started in 1936, and in all that time, I'm only the sixth editor to actually edit the magazine. So that's pretty amazing. I feel like there's all this history and knowledge and wisdom behind me in terms of all the predecessor editors. So it's a lot to live up to, but it's also a very exciting and challenging role. And so yeah, I mean, I always read Prediction growing up, and so for me it's a real dream job.
Yes, I know, and particularly also for me, I've always been a reader of Prediction magazine since I first arrived in this country. Through your work, Tania, you must get to meet various psychics and try holistic treatments and so on. Is there an unusual encounter or experience that stuck particularly in your mind?
Absolutely. I mean, there's been so many. I've been editor for about 3.5, almost 4 years, and in that time, there've been so many different, sort of things that I've tried out. But my absolute favourite has probably been shamanism, which I suppose isn't really a treatment per se. It's more of a whole philosophy, a whole way of looking at life. And also of getting information, really practical, solid information about what's going on in your life. And I found it pretty amazing. So do you want me to tell you about one?
Yes, we'd love to.
Okay, well, power animals, for example. I initially did a sort of a basic shamanism course, but then I did something on soul retrieval with someone who's subsequently become a great friend, Ros Heaven. He's an author, and I did this workshop on soul retrieval with him in Brighton. And during the course of that, you actually get a power animal that is brought back for you to help in your day-to-day life. And for mine, it was a snow leopard, and I found it really quite comforting because in developing my relationship with that power animal, just through daily life, if I see a little bit of leopard print, it just reminds me that I've got this spirit entity, if you like, that helps me on a daily basis. And that's pretty powerful stuff. So, I mean, I would recommend that to anyone.
That's amazing. Do you think you have developed a personal interest in psychic matters as a result of being an editor of Prediction magazine?
I think it's probably increased the knowledge and the scope and the experience more, but the actual interest was always there because I grew up in a very sort of, I suppose, left off field family, and we were always sort of very much more interested in alternative and native ways of healing than in, say, allopathy or anything like that. And so I grew up having a real focus on alternative lifestyles, alternative belief systems, and spirituality. So for me, it was an ideal job because I was interested in that rather than having to develop an interest afterwards because of my job.
Tania, what is it like to grow up in a family where everyone is psychic? Of course, I've met your family several occasions, especially knowing that your father is a master healer and an astrologer. I mean, I can't imagine it being normal times around your house. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's interesting at times. I mean, we've had people sort of come around to the house and sort of tell us they've seen things. And I mean, we once had a very strange experience when I was quite young, where this gentleman who's quite a religious man, and he came round to see my dad, and he was sort of just an acquaintance, and he said some things and whatever, and spoke to my dad, and at the end of the time when he was leaving, he said, your son's a bit strange. He keeps staring at me, and is he all right? He's gone off to the kitchen. And Dad sort of said, I don't have a son, and I don't know what you're talking about. And then it came back again. He was so
It must have been frightened.
So there was obviously some young child that was that had attached itself to our home and frightened a couple of people away. But yeah, I mean,
you're used to this now.
Yeah, it's nothing scary. Nobody need be scared of coming to our house or anything, because those sort of experiences are few and far between, and the positive spiritual or paranormal or supernatural experience is always so much more common.
So you must have had a different perspective on life growing up in such circumstances. I mean, being kind of freely communicating or seeing spirits or the invisible without actually being frightened of it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think that I'm a completely normal human being. If I go into somewhere that's,
Yes.
a spooky castle or whatever, I'm going to be as nervous as anyone else, and I always cover my eyes when I'm watching horror films. So it's not sort of being utterly fearless, but it's more a case of understanding that if there's something you can't explain, that's not necessarily something you need to be scared of. I think it's a much more sensible view to actually start investigating it a bit more and maybe find out what it is you're dealing with.
To be aware that there's more than what meets the eye, so to speak.
Absolutely. More than what our senses can
perceive, yes. Tania, in our personal dialogue interview in Psychic and Spirit magazine, you mentioned that you were working on your memoirs. Has there been other projects in the pipeline? I know you recently went on a trip to San Francisco. Is that something you can tell us about?
I can't tell you right now. I'm under oath not to say anything.
I'm intrigued.
And I'm crossing lots of fingers, just to make sure it all happens. But when it does happen, you will be the first to know, I promise.
Thank you very much for talking to us. It's been lovely to have you.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast, brought to you by Catheric.com.